If this video gets 1,000 likes, I'll make a players to draft at 19 video. Coming up here on today's show, I got 4 players that the Raiders should target at pick 12 and 2 that they might even trade up for. That's all coming up right now on the Raiders Report. Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report, and I'm Mitchell Renz. If you watch the show, you'll know that these right here are the Raiders' biggest needs, and this is why I have the team going out and getting a cornerback and some wide receivers here at pick number 12. I'll start the show off here with C.J. Henderson, and if you are a loyal watcher, you'll know that I am a big fan of Henderson, who absolutely tore up the combine, and I think the Raiders' defense is personally the best when we play man-to-man. Hopefully Paul Gunther, fingers crossed, watches this video and they start playing more man, because I think Henderson profiles more as a man-to-man cover corner. And honestly, he's going to be a very good one. He can locate the ball well, he tracks it down, and he can make the interception. Tackling, though, I will admit that it definitely does need to improve. Now, I've watched a lot of tape on Henderson, and a lot of times people hit me with, oh, Mitch, he didn't have any interceptions last year. How can you say he tracks the ball well? Pass breakups, 11 of them. He breaks up the ball. He doesn't let his receiver catch it. And at 6'1", 204 pounds, I think that he could actually fill out a little bit more. And for a lot of NFL players, a lot of players that are first coming out of college, you start beefing up a little bit. Look at Max Crosby. He's a perfect example of a player. Look at Max when he first came out of the combine. He beefed up a little bit. And I kind of think C.J. Henderson, if he puts on a little bit of weight, he could be turning into something really special, because you can see right there, he's got the athletic tools. He just needs to be built out a little bit more. So how about this? I'm going to be doing some scouting reports on all the players that I talk about today. When I think about strengths of a player like C.J. Henderson, I see the length, the athleticism. Dude makes plays. Some weaknesses, I think he still needs to fill out a little bit more. He does struggle here and there in zone coverage. I think that's just, again, a learning curve. Tackling is his biggest weakness. And all the time we sit here and we're like, okay, who's a good NFL comparison? My NFL comparison, when I see C.J. Henderson, or what I hope the 21-year-old can become, I see a player like Aqib Talib. And as much as y'all might not like Aqib Talib, he was a very successful cornerback in the NFL. Now, today's show is all around who the Raiders should go out and draft at number 12. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you might get hit with an ad break while the ad is playing. And I want you to scroll on down to the YouTube pinned comment and let me know who you want the Raiders to draft at pick number 12. Let's go in now to another player that it's very, very familiar here on the show. It's Henry Ruggs III, and that first note is the truth. He is the fastest player in the 2020 NFL Draft. And let's be real. Not only are we in desperate need of a receiver, we're in desperate need of a player with outside speed. And a lot of times people say, Mitch, I don't know, Henry Ruggs, he's a little bit undersized. Can he play outside? Yeah, he can. 5'11", 188. The thing that I really like about Ruggs, and I think it's something that we don't talk nearly enough, because you're going to see the film, you're going to see the speed. The other thing that he brings is a serious red zone threat, because you have to always respect his ability to go underneath. But in terms of just being able to stretch the football field, you're looking at a guy last year at Alabama who averaged 18.8 yards per catch. That's something I like. But the 40-yard dash time, it's laughable. It's 4.27. It's top 5 in NFL combine history. Now, if you go back and look at some receivers who have, let's say, been in the top percentile of the draft in terms of 40-yard dash time, it's not that great. But I do think Henry Ruggs is a lot more complete of a receiver. I've seen comparisons of Ted Ginn, and in fact, I get asked very often, Mitch, which player does Henry Ruggs remind you of? I'm going to tell you right after I remind you to subscribe to the Raiders Report, because if you love Raiders videos and free gear, the Raiders Report, we're going to be giving you both. So go ahead, go down, scroll down there, click that big red button that says subscribe, and make sure you turn on your notifications, because every Tuesday in April, our live shows start at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific. We're also going to be giving away a lot of free gear for those of you that subscribe. All right, let's get into this scouting report around Henry Ruggs. He reminds me of Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks, the former first-round pick, and yes, he's been in some trade discussions. We talked about it yesterday on the Raiders Report. But when I think about a weakness of Ruggs, I do think he struggles getting out of his release a little bit. The contested catches once in a while and he gets in traffic. He doesn't quite bring it in. But you can't teach the speed that he has. And I actually think his underneath running ability fits our offense very, very well. He can stretch the field. He can do a lot of different things. Henry Ruggs is a player that I like a lot. Let's go to the next player here on my list. It is going to be CeeDee Lamb. And for those of you that watch the show, you'll know that I love CeeDee Lamb. He's great at finding the open field. He's got size, speed. I think he would fit absolutely perfect in John Gruden's offense. And his ability to get yards after the catch, it's, I think, honestly, maybe the biggest upside to CeeDee's game. And when I think about how he's going to be able to fit in this offense overall, you want to talk about a wide receiver that can block. CeeDee Lamb, he can block. And not only can he block, he wants to block. He's physical. And when you're thinking about a receiver that you're going to take in that first round, you got to also think about a player who can fit this offense well. And even if we go out and draft a receiver in the first round, this is going to be a run-first offense with Josh Jacobs, with the offensive line that we've built. I love CeeDee Lamb's build at 6'2", 198 pounds is what he measured in at the NFL Combine. And I don't want people to look at just the 40-yard dash time or the vertical jump or broad jump. It might not light up the page. That's okay to me. You know why? Because he's a football player and he makes plays when it matters. And he did that his entire career at Oklahoma. And I understand the Big 12, okay? The Big 12 is nothing compared to the SEC. Sorry, that's not breaking news to many people. But his ability to get yards after the catch, his ability to make plays, and go watch CeeDee Lamb, like, against LSU. Sure, that game was a blowout, but the one player who showed up for Oklahoma, it was CeeDee Lamb. And you can see my NFL comparison there for him. It's DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins ran a 4.57 40-yard dash. Broad jump, vertical jump, very, very similar. I had to just put a weakness on here. He doesn't have elite speed, and he is a little bit narrow build. When I think about him really building out and getting into the weight room with an NFL team, CeeDee Lamb, I'm telling you right now, is going to be a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. Raider Nation, I got this special deal for you. If you want this Raiders Against the World t-shirt, go to the link below, chatsports.com/RaidersWorld. If you can't remember the link, I'll put it in the descriptions and I'll put it in the comment section below. If you want to get on the show, I've had a lot of people send me, Mitch, absolutely love what you put on here. And if you want to get on the show, send me a picture like my man Justin did here. He went out, got that Raiders Against the World t-shirt. Again, it's at chatsports.com/RaidersWorld. Let's go to another player here, my last one on today's show, Jerry Jeudy. And I think you could argue that he is the number 1 wide receiver, and I know a lot of people would make that argument. He's got burst, agility, speed for days, and the thing that I think separates him from Ruggs and even Lamb, it's his ability to run routes. And not only just run the routes, set up the routes. Because you want to talk about a player with a high football IQ. Again, Ruggs, Lamb, 2 unbelievable wide receivers. But I actually think Jerry Jeudy is the smartest out of the bunch because of his ability to run the routes and set up the routes and then just run an absolute complete route tree. And if there's one thing that I know John Gruden and Mike Mayock love, it's versatility. And Jerry Jeudy, I think, gives you the most versatility out of a player like CeeDee Lamb, out of a player like Henry Ruggs. And the 4.45 40-yard dash time, it's impressive. He's got the hands, he's got the arms, the height, the weight. He's got it all. When I think about a really cool, though, comparison for Jeudy, the name that always just pops up into my mind, it's Greg Jennings. Maybe you guys remember Greg Jennings from a little bit back in his time when he played with the Green Bay Packers. But for me, if you're trying to change a culture, if you're trying to add smart football players, that's exactly what you are going to get in a player like Jeudy. Yes, I get it. He's coming out of Alabama, as I stumble over my words. But I'm telling you right now, he's not going to be like what Amari Cooper was. I promise you, I promise you, I promise you. Jeudy, he doesn't give up on routes. He doesn't give up on plays. That's why I'm very confident in going out and getting a player like Jerry Jeudy at pick number 12. So obviously here we have 3 wide receivers, and I think if I'm the Raiders at pick number 12, the 4 names that I think are the most realistic are CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, C.J. Henderson, in that order. So if CeeDee Lamb's on the board, I'll take him over Jeudy. But I do think that there is a clear separation, okay, between Lamb, Jeudy, Ruggs, and then honestly, I kind of just threw in C.J. Henderson just due to the need. So those are the players I drafted 12. But if you want to know the 2 players I'd be willing to trade up for, watch after this YouTube ad break. So before I give you the 2 players, I at least want to show you what draft picks we're working with. You know, we have 2 picks in the first round, 3 picks in the third, and then a pick in the 4th, 5th, total 7 picks. So I don't want to know, I shouldn't say I don't want to know. I don't know who the Raiders would actually trade up for or trade with, but I do have an idea of the 2 players. The first player up here, it's Isaiah Simmons, and I absolutely love Isaiah Simmons. And I think the way that the Raiders go out and get a Simmons is if he slides down to maybe like pick 7, pick 8, and then the Raiders are like, oh my Lord, we have to go up and we have to get this guy. So I think the cost of going out and getting a Simmons would be like 12th overall pick, and you give up your first, 3rd round pick, and then your 4th round pick. Is it a lot for Simmons? Sure. But he's also, in my opinion, the most versatile player in the entire NFL draft, and we know that Mike Mayock loves him. Heck, Mayock was bragging about him when he wasn't even talking about Simmons. He was talking about the linebacking position in the NFL and then just started talking about Simmons. I know for a fact that he's going to be an incredible player, and if you want an NFL comparison, unfortunately, I don't have one. Why? Because he is that good of a football player where he is a hybrid to me of like a Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey, and a Tyrann Mathieu. Let's now go into the other player that I think that the Raiders could trade up for, and it's Jeff Okudah, the number 1 cornerback in this year's class. And if you're looking, wait, Mitch, they'd give up the exact same for Okudah and Simmons. I think the reason why you go out and get a Simmons or Okudah is because one of them just slid down a little bit, and I think the point where the Raiders trade up is if one of these players slide to pick number 7, like the Carolina Panthers. So why would they trade up for Okudah? He is the number 1 cornerback in the 2020 NFL draft. I am very, very confident in saying that. Like, there are a few prospects that come out as good as Okudah, and John Gruden, he noticed really quick. If you saw at the NFL scouting combine, Gruden literally looked at Okudah and was like, what planet are you from? Why? Because he is that talented of a player. If I had an NFL comparison of Okudah, I think it's like a Patrick Peterson, who I would argue 3 years ago was the most complete cornerback in the entire NFL. At the end of the day, though, if you're going to go up and trade for a player, I want it to be somebody that absolutely makes a difference on our team, because I want Mike Mayock to have as many picks as possible. But I also know this: Jeff Okudah, Isaiah Simmons, both are a home run. So we're going to play a game here, and I'll wrap up the show. If you had to pick a player to trade up for, let's say you had to trade up for a player, who would you go with? Jeff Okudah type O, Isaiah Simmons type S. If you haven't subscribed to the show yet, make sure you do. Click that big red button, turn on the notifications, and let's get this video to 1,000 likes. Raider Nation, what's going on? Is this the number 1 Raiders channel on YouTube? For Chucky Heads, believe it, baby. And if you haven't already, subscribe right here. I'm giving you Chucky Heads, news, rumors, Raider Nation rumors. And look at this, I'm making your life easier. Check out my next video. Thanks for watching, and go Raiders.